Hey team, this training is called Board Prospecting in Reverse, and I have to tell you, it is diabolically good. This is going to help you tap into industry leaders to open more conversations, not with one prospect, not with two prospects, but with three prospects or a triple prospect who is all embodied in one human being. Tell you more about that in a moment, but it's your 3-to-1 prospect door opening strategy. Let's talk about how this works. So, think back to all the times when you were saying to yourself, boy, oh boy, it is hard to find decision makers. I'm not sure where the top dogs live. I don't know how to get access to them. I don't know what's a reasonable premise to reach out to them without seeming like a weird, sketchy, spammy spammerson kind of person. And by the way, who are the biggest players in this industry or that industry? Who's got the clout? Who are the big cigars? Who's got the influence? Who's got the connections? Boy, wish I knew. If I had X-ray vision into, give me a cast list of the biggest players, who's got the clout, who's got the influence, and who's got the connections, couldn't we do a lot better with some of these door-opening conversations and door-opening invitations to a conversation if we had that cast list? Well, my friend, you're about to get the cast list. Let's talk about what we're seeing here. When you don't know what's going on, I don't know too often leads to I don't do, because you're literally not sure where to look, not sure who to talk to, not sure who to connect with. So that lack of clarity, that lack of certainty also causes lack of action. Lack of action causes lack of results. And here we are. So imagine if you had the clarity. Clarity leads to action. Action leads to traction. Traction leads to results. That is where we're going. So the problem when you don't know who to talk to is simply not enough conversations in play with high-level prospects, or wasting time talking to low-level people who can't hire you. Let me tell you a quick story. This was, again, at the beginning of my career, back around 2003. I went to a networking meeting, and back then I didn't know that HR people, more often than not, are not the decision maker. But I met this woman who worked in a medium-sized accounting firm, and she positioned herself. She was the VP of HR, and she positioned herself as this bigwig decision maker that brings in consultants and trainers and all kinds of people. So, needless to say, I took her to lunch. I wanted to pick her brain. I wanted to get to know what's going on. And we had a great lunch, and it didn't really go anywhere. And a couple months later, we have some other interchange, and I'm like, well, let me try it again. Maybe I screwed up the lunch. Maybe I didn't ask the right questions. So we have lunch a second time, and she's starting to drop a little bit of a hint that maybe there's a need for training. Maybe there's a need for some coaching. Maybe they want to bring me in to speak for their big accounting firm annual event. And so now I'm getting excited. Now I'm starting to drool. And nothing happens again. And then a few weeks later, I try a third time. And this time we go to breakfast. And I say, so Sharon, we've been talking a lot about training and coaching and speaking and your big annual events. Tell me what's going on. Tell me how I can help you. Tell me how I can serve your group. And she says to me, this is the third lunch that I'm paying for, breakfast, meal. She says to me, well, David, I don't really make the final decisions on any of that. And I was like, oh my God. So you know what she likes to do? She likes to have a lot of lunch, and she likes to have a lot of breakfast, and she likes people kowtowing to her, and she likes feeling important because obviously she has zero authority and would never, ever have the authority or the budget or the drive or the bravery to bring me in. So, what was my mistake here? Dead end. And so this also helps you prevent what I call dead endless lunches and breakfasts and coffee and drinks with non-serious decision makers. If you've ever had this experience, and I'm guessing that you have, that you were strung along by a non-decision maker, we can stop doing that today. We can just stop doing that right here, right now. All right, enough about my traumatic background, wasting a whole bunch of time. Let's talk about how to do it right. The opportunity, imagine if you had a golden key that opened doors with the exact right prospects who are also, this is important, most willing to talk to you. In fact, they kind of have a responsibility to talk to you. So they can't easily brush you off or ignore your outreach. Where do we find people like that? Well, my friends, this is called board prospecting in reverse. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the trade and professional associations in the industry or the industries that you would like to do business in, find the board members, and do a little invitation to a conversation. So grab this worksheet right here, Board Prospecting in Reverse, and we will walk through it together. And by the time we're done, you are going to have 27 new best friends to reach out to and invite to a conversation. Let's see how that works. First, we got to find out what the associations are. Once again, Google is your friend. We'll do a couple of Google searches. Your industry, so let's say it's accounting, just to go back to my traumatic, huge waste of time with the VP of HR in the accounting firm. In Accounting Association, Accounting National Association, Pennsylvania Accounting Association, California Accounting Association, New York Accounting Association, or city, Chicago, Orlando, Seattle, San Francisco Accounting Association. So we're looking for national, we're looking for state level, and we're looking for regional and local in your local city or metropolitan area. So you're going to find all kinds of amazing associations and groups. Here is how to find the board members. You're going to go to the homepage of that association after you click through on the Google results, and it's going to be one or more of these areas that you look in first. Almost always it's under the About section. Sometimes leadership is not under the About menu. There's a separate leadership tab, but it's About and or Leadership. And then you don't want the staff, you want the board of directors. You want the board of directors, you want to find that list, and then either one of two things will happen on that list. Either the association itself is going to have direct contact information on their website, or it's going to have their name and their company, and all you have to do then is simply find them on LinkedIn. And that is, so it's either a one-step or a two-step to actually get their contact details. So I went, just as an example, to the Ohio Bankers League. The Ohio Bankers League. And you can see that this is under About. If you look at the breadcrumb trail up at the top there, About, Boards and Committees, OBL, Board of Directors. So that was the breadcrumb trail that got me there. And here's what I mean about triple prospect. Even though these people serve in a volunteer position on the Ohio Bankers League Board of Directors, they are also highly placed executives at their own company. In this case, it's at their own bank. So Brian Young, Chairman, President, CEO, Union Bank Company. Ron Zimmerly, President, the Middlefield Banking Company. Jenny Saunders, Division President, FC Bank. Todd Mason, President and CEO, First National Bank of Pandora. Must be very musical, very hip. Michael Edelman, President and CEO of Ohio Bankers League. So he is actually he works for the association. He does not work at a bank. So we take him off the list. Jerome Bay is President, CEO, Lending Officer at Versailles Savings and Loan. Keith Borders is the VP of Community Development at Union Savings Bank. Michael Broski is President of First Federal Savings and Loan. Jeffrey Cloud, President and CEO, Southern Hills Community Bank, and William Daly, Chief Executive Officer and Director, Riverside Bank of Dublin. Notice I have the A players. I have the alpha dogs. Now, sometimes, depending on the association, and remember, there are hundreds of these, and dozens and dozens and dozens that you can find that would be a bullseye for you. Sometimes you will have click on their name, go right to their LinkedIn profile or their direct email or their direct phone number. In this case, we don't have that. So if I wanted to find Brian Young, I would go onto LinkedIn, type Brian Young, Union Bank Company. He would come up. I would reach out that way, etc. So either way, you're going to get the direct contact info, or you're at the worst case scenario, you're going to know who's who, and you're going to have to take a second step and connect with them on LinkedIn. So here's how to make the ask. Here's how to make the ask, my friends. This is the magic email. Their name, association acronym, and question. So if I'm reaching out to Brian, who we just saw is the CEO of a bank, and he's on the board, he's the chairman of the board of the OBL, the email subject line would be Brian, OBL question. Now, because Brian serves in this industry association, he is obligated to help people that reach out to him with anything related to that association. So as a board member myself of several different associations and organizations, trust me, if someone had sent me an email, David, the name of the association that I'm serving on the board actively, and question, I'm going to open that email. So now let's look at the body. Hi, Brian. We haven't met yet, but I'm in the process of preparing a presentation for OBL and would love your help to tailor it in the most relevant way for your members. As a board member and leader in the industry, your personal insights would be tremendously valuable. Our chat would be 15 minutes max. Can I count on your help to make this presentation a home run for OBL members? And then your name. No fancy signature block, no attachments, no picture, no nothing. 3-paragraph email. In fact, is this three? It's 3 sentences, isn't it? No, it's 4 sentences, but 3 paragraphs. Forgot about the period, about our chat would be 15 minutes max. So the point is super tight, super short, and then you will get entree. And now each of these people, each of these folks is a triple prospect. So Brian might very well hire you to do something for OBL. So the association that they're a board member of, that's prospect number 1. Brian might hire you for his own bank. So the board member's company is prospect number 2. And if you do anything as far as executive coaching, personal coaching, one-on-one mentoring, Brian might also become a private client. So the association might hire you. His organization, his private organization, might hire you, and he might hire you personally. So 3 prospects for the price of 1. Let me repeat that. 3 prospects for the price of 1. Pretty darn cool. Now, what do you ask? What do you ask? Well, good news. You have the Asking for Air question selector. My strong recommendation is that you ask the industry questions in column number 1. If you are, in fact, a professional speaker, and there is a possibility that you'd be interested in speaking for OBL, and you have a program one sheet or you have a quick little write-up, you could optionally ask some of the questions in column number 2, which are the program questions that we talked about in that training. My strong recommendation, though, is to ask about them and their company and their business and their team and their life. And that's the industry questions in column 1. Do not talk about you and your programs or your speech or your keynote. But it's a judgment call on your part. My recommendation is to stick to the industry questions in column 1 when you have this conversation using board prospecting in reverse. Now, key principles. If you've done any speaking at all, and this really kind of, the idea of this came from my speaking career. Every time that I would go and land a speaking gig at an association, one of the first things I would do is I would reach out to all the board members and say, hey, I'm doing a program. I would love to borrow 15 minutes of your brain power to help me tailor the program, make sure it's a home run. And most of the board members were happy to talk to me. About 5 years ago, it occurred to me, wait a minute. Why am I waiting until after I'm hired to have those interviews? I could do those interviews before I'm hired in order to get hired. And so that was the genesis of this whole idea. That's why it's called board prospecting in reverse. Many speakers, and if you're a speaker, you know what I'm talking about, many speakers will talk to the board members after they're hired. Let's do that in reverse, and let's do that before we get hired so that we get hired. And you're connecting with triple prospects. Just talked about that. The association could hire you, their own organization could hire you, or they could hire you personally. And now that you're reaching out to the association that serves the industries that you want to zero in on, you can also capitalize on writing opportunities, speaking opportunities, both virtual and in person, and networking through those same exact associations that you're now connected with. Pretty cool strategy. Pretty cool strategy. All right, see you in the next training.